if we show up in those people's lives and not just sit back and just being like, oh, okay, well, they've figured out their situation. They're just going to share this house. No, let's give them some direction. Let's give them some ideas. Let's sit down and talk this out and go, what could we do? How could we make this work? What are some options you have at your fingertips? Because otherwise... Welcome back to Life at 10/10ths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. My name is Garrett Fryer. We got Matt Benelli with me today, and we are excited. We're going to jump right into our topic today because I had a vision, Matt, on a coaching call the other day. It was literally a vision. It was dropped down from the heavens, and they gave it to me, and they said, Garrett, you have to talk about this. And I even told the person I was on a coaching call with, I said, this is going to be a podcast episode because... the winds have changed. The market's changed. The market's different. It's been different for a while, Matt. This is not like all of a sudden the market's changing. It's been different. And I want to talk to you a little bit today about how to adjust and how we watch different realtors approach this. And sailing came into mind. I had this vision of sailing, and I was like, oh my gosh, when the winds are blowing in the right direction, it's easy to sail a boat where you want to go. When the winds are back and you've got a place you want to head to. But when the winds are changed or they're coming from a different area, it's not that you just park the boat and get off of it, which we're watching some people do right now and just go, you know what? It's not as easy as it used to be. We're just going to pull this thing over and I'm going to get off and be like, I'm not a sailor anymore, which we're watching some people in the real estate business go, I'm done.
Makes me think of, I don't know why this came into my mind, that the clip in Gone in 60 Seconds, the newer one, where he's introducing the young guy team and he's like, yeah, and he can drive anything with wheels and some things with not. That's what I'm getting. It's like, Garrett's not only driving race cars, he also, drives boats and sails boats. This guy's a jack of all trades. He can do it all. He can jib and jab and tack with the best of them.
Well, we'll get into the sailing terms here in just a second, but Matt, I'm starting to hear a lot of realtors that are coming to me that are really good realtors in the business. I am really fortunate to work with some incredible people. Yeah. And they're having really experienced, maybe older in the industry, to a place that they're like, you know what? I don't really want to learn new stuff right now and change this up. And they're coming to these guys saying, hey, can we work out a deal on my book of business here? I'm seeing that come about. I'm watching realtors that are frustrated with the year that they've had. Instead of them taking ownership of it, sometimes they're blaming their office. And we're watching groups of people pick up and leave offices. I've had that phone call, and I've watched a couple people this last week. I had an agent call me, goes, what do I do? Like, I love my office. I love where I'm at. But I just had one of our top agents, who's one of my best friends, leave, and she's taken a whole bunch of people with her. And what do I do? Because I don't want to leave my office. Like, I love where I'm at. That was a conversation last week. We're watching this start to happen, this movement of people, these people that are saying, I'm out of here. And it's interesting is that, Matt, you brought this up from what Ricky Carew said. Share that, what you shared with me before we were starting.
I mean, if we're going to measure a good market for real estate agents, right? And I think, and this is just an interesting discussion in itself, which can maybe even be a bigger discussion, is, a good market for a consumer is different than what a good market is for an agent, right? Because theoretically, the transaction volume is going to define a good year for an agent, right? If there's more opportunities to do transactions, then more agents can have more opportunity to do more deals. And this past year and this year as well, we're talking about lowest transaction volume annually since the 1990s. So we're talking about probably like the worst market these agents have experienced in terms of transaction opportunity. Okay, maybe some people made it up for in the appreciation that's happened. So commissions have been larger because the price points have been larger. But you look at it, like, transaction volume's way down. I mean, lower than 2008. Right. So that's a tough year for agents. And I think it kind of snuck up on a lot of people. They're like, wait a minute, really? Is that what's going on?
I've had so many people over the years that miss that understanding of what is a good real estate market for realtor compared to consumer. And the realtors sometimes get caught up in what's a good market for a consumer. And when they hear about, like, rates being high, all this stuff that makes it easy for people to buy and sell real estate. They go, oh my gosh, our business is going to get hurt also. Not always the case, because in the most unfavorable markets sometimes you will get people that are like, yeah, it's not the right time, but it is the right time for us to move and change, and we're going. And I don't care if the rates are bad. I don't care if prices are high. I don't care whatever might be happening. I don't care that there's a pandemic going on and we're locked in our houses and I'm not sure if I'm going to have a job. I am moving and I'm getting out of here. It's not always what's favorable for the consumer. And I love that he said this, and I love that you shared this with me, is that it really comes down to the amount of transactions moving through a pipeline is what's going to make the real estate industry either an easy market or where there's a lot of opportunity or low opportunity. And we just saw one of the lowest moving inventory markets I've ever been around.
I mean, it'll be really interesting to see where the numbers fall at the end of the year, because at the end of the third quarter, existing home sales were slightly over 3 million, which was really low. And typically you don't get a quarter more sales in the last quarter. You get less. Granted, it's election year, so you might see a little bit of that bump. But, if we cross over 4 million existing home sales, that would be kind of a surprise, actually. I will say this, though. I also, on that same token, that's still a lot of transactions, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of sides. And I will say,
I know people that had the best years they've ever had in real estate ever in this year right now.
And I firmly believe, and this gets back to how do we sail into the wind? I firmly believe, and I said this back in the teens when I was managing an office in New Jersey, and they were kind of complaining about, well, how come like these deals aren't happening and all that kind of stuff. I said, you know what? There are buyers and sellers out there who will not transact, who have not transacted this year because they did not have a comprehensive conversation with an advisor that showed them the opportunity that they could grasp to go achieve their goal of making a move. I firmly believe that. Now, I don't think we're talking about 10% of a marketplace or anything like that. But when you take that level of ownership of like, hey, if I just am a good advisor for my people, like there are people who aren't moving out there, whether it's 1, 2, 10, 20, 100, doesn't matter. If you go out with that focus, you're going to be able to attract that business that is out there. Cause I know it's there because it happens every year.
I want to share my vision. Can I share my vision?
Sorry. Back to sailing.
Back to sailing. Now we're gonna shrink this down, because when I'm thinking of sailing, people are like, "Ooh, big sailboat." No, windsurfer. We're gonna start with windsurfer. We'll move our way up. Still sailing, right?
Schooner.
I don't know. I know windsurfer. I can do that. So way back, my dad and I took windsurfing lessons. We would go out every weekend and we would do our windsurfing lessons. And first they teach you how to get up on the board, then they teach you how to hold the sail to just catch the wind. And really you're going where the wind wants to take you. So, you stand up on the board, wind gets to the back of your back, you hold the sail and you go ripping off across the lake. What's really interesting is that we just watched, and really it's actually been a little bit where the winds were that favorable of just saying, hey, you know what? Stand up on that board, grab that, and it's just going to take you and you're going to go. Now, when you are my dad as a 200 plus pound man, not quite as easy. When you're a little kid, you can stand on that board without it falling over. You're not top heavy at all. Sorry, Dad. But like, hey, you know what? It happens as you get bigger and older and grow up. But as a little kid, I could just put that sail up, grab that wind, and pooh, I was taken off across this lake. And I think we all came out of a marketplace here. And again, it's been different for a little bit now. I'm not saying this is changing right now. It's just we're getting to analyze it right now. We were in a marketplace and all you had to do is stand up on that board, hold it up, and there were people going, oh my gosh, real estate is falling out of the sky. We saw a ton of realtors enter the marketplace, get their license and go, we're making great money right now. We saw this back in 2005, 2006, end of 2000 or 2007, beginning of 2007, where people just had their sale up and they're like, why isn't everybody selling real estate? Like, this is the craziest business ever. We're making so much money. We're doing so much business. Well, it's interesting because the winds changed. They changed a while back, and we saw some real estate agents that had some tools in their tool belt. They'd seen this stuff before. They'd been on this lake before, and they're like, oh, there's a skill set that you have as a wakeboarder, and it's called tacking and jibing. Like that, this is what you do. And it actually allows you to move into the wind, but you have to have some skills. First, you're going to head off here kind of alongside the wind, and then you're going to turn and you're going to send it back this way. And then you're going to turn again and you're going to send back this way. It's how sailboats sail when the wind is not necessarily favorable to them to get them to their destination by just blowing at their back. It doesn't mean sailboats can only sail one way. They've known about this for years. But it's a skill set you have to know. Otherwise, you are the surfer. Matt and I were joking about this before we started, that you just get on the the windsurf board, and you just rip across the lake. And what, you get picked up by somebody that says, oh, here, we're going to load all this stuff up. We're going to drive you back around so you can do it again. Like, unless you learn the skill to go back, that's your only option.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where we're watching a lot of people right now that are getting off their board on the other side of the lake and going, well, that was fun. Yeah, but I guess I'm not riding this board anymore. I think I'm going to jump off here. And, that was my windsurfing days. Those are behind me. Where there are some really skilled agents, and I'm watching it all over the place right now, that have learned these skills. And I want to encourage everybody. And that's why we want to talk about this today. Like, there's some skills that if you just take some time and learn right now, there's a lot of business on the horizon. I think there's some incredible business on the horizon, because you can't have limited sales like we've had for so long here and not have a wave of sales start to come through, because people are people. People need to move at some point.
Yeah. And I'd say, unfortunately, it's the newer agents that are going to probably have the biggest struggles going against the wind, because if you're, and I say new agent, not experienced agent, because if you've been in the business long enough, you've done enough deals where you're probably going to get some business from the deals that you do, because you're probably pretty good at doing the deal. Like, let's be honest, most agents are pretty good at contract to close, home searches, and listing property for sale. Like, most agents are pretty good at that. And if you've done enough of that, you're going to have people who say, hey, come use Matt, go use Garrett. Because they don't have comparative experiences, right? People don't trade homes that often enough. But the new agents are going to struggle because they don't have that kind of fuel. Let's say that's like a little motor that you might have, like a little trolling motor that you might have on the back of that surfboard. They don't have that yet. So this is where we got it now. And also for those longevity agents, I should say, it's good to tune up on these skills too, if you want to actually thrive through this as well, because this is where you're seeing, I think, Garrett, a lot of those agents go, man, it's not what it used to be. So I'm thinking about retirement and things like that. And these skills are interesting because there's a whole variety of skills, and realtors do wear a lot of hats. Like, you guys do a lot of different things, and it's constant barrage of learn this skill, learn that skill. This is how you sell. This is how you transact. This is how you serve. This is how you do this. But you do need to map out time to learn each and every one of the skills that'll help you go. And I'd say, Garrett, it starts with communication. How do we build good communication about what we do so that we can deliver value? Because that's where, when we start to go into the wind, the tacking and jibing, which jibe's a new word for me
You're
today.
getting it. You're getting it, Matt. You're
It's
there.
a new one for me. It's when you get to control the stern of the boat, which is pretty cool.
Matt did research before we started recording.
There's a lot of other really cool words that go with sailing.
I'm a sailor. Sorry, keep going.
But these are those, the communication skills are what's going to actually attract business to you. And if you don't have the ability to communicate and deliver value outside of a transaction, and I think this is where a lot of agents stumble, because as transaction volume goes down, you can't make it up for in leads, because the leads are also drying up too, right? I mean, if the leads were there, the transaction volume would be there, because there's always somebody out there who's a lead churner, right? But all that stuff's going down. And so this comes into, okay, how do we have these conversations, display value, and help people go from problem to solution? And that's where a lot of agents don't develop skills. They work on the front end, how do I get leads? And the back end, how do I do a deal? And they miss this in between, Garrett.
So I'm watching this group of people right now and raise your hand out there if you're one of these people that they're like, I've got so much potential in my business right now. I have so many people that want to buy, they want to sell, but they're sitting on their hands. They're not making a move forward right now. They're not really making that next step. The other side of this, which is even more painful, is they're like, I have a listing that I'm pretty sure is going to cancel on me right now. Well, why are they going to cancel on you? Like, what's going on? Well, they've been on the market for X amount of days. They won't adjust their price. They won't come. They won't do this to the house. The house needed these things right up front, and they wouldn't do it. And part of me goes, we got into some bad habits over the handful of years behind us here right now, where we didn't have to have the hard conversations. You didn't have to sit down with your seller and be like, your home will not sell if you don't do these things in this marketplace. We have not had to sit down and say, you could be on the market for 6 months, maybe a year or longer. I am watching homes that are crossing this like 3-4 month time frame right now. And the selling agent is going, I don't get it. Like, they won't listen to me. I'm like, you need to sometimes be the expert, hit them between the eyes and say, look, you have cancer and you're going to die. And this is not a fun conversation. But seriously, it's what doctors have to do. Doctors, the good doctors, there are certain doctors that they will send into the room to talk to the families and talk to the people to say, this is the situation at hand. And there's a solution to it, but you've got to listen to me. You've got to listen to what the next steps are of where we're going in this. And if you choose not to listen to me, that's up to you. Like, but I got a path. And I think as real estate agents, may not be as serious as cancer, but you have these people that are sitting with the home and we're just kind of kicking around the outside going, all right, well, there's some things you could do, but you know what? They want to do that. They want to do it their way. And hey, you know what? That's on them, and we're going to let them learn their lesson. And they'll be on the market a little bit longer, and maybe someday I'll get them to see it my way. I think because it's not as serious as life and death, we don't take it as serious with them. But you know what? Time is time. The longer they're sitting on that market, the longer they're not getting where they want to go. They start building resentment. They start getting frustrated. Like, be the one that makes things happen for them, which means you got to have some tough conversations.
You got to have tough conversations and you got to have confidence as well. And I think a big challenge that realtors maybe are facing internally right now is coming off of 21, 22, and maybe even the first part of 23, as transaction volume has gone down, I think some markets people are experiencing maybe, hey, if I bought a home a few years ago, I may not be able to sell it for what I bought it for. Or whatever it is. And I think agents struggle with having that conversation, particularly if they were the agent that helped them buy that house. And I totally get it, right? Because the blame always goes to the agent. Like,
well, just think about it, Matt. Rates are going to cut. You're just dating this rate, remember?
Even
and
the ones that
always
didn't say
appreciate. Houses always appreciate. Look at the track record. For years and years, they've always appreciated. You'll be fine.
Well, even for the ones that weren't promoting that conversation.
Sorry, I'm a little spicy today. I apologize.
I get it, right? Because I've been there too, where like the agent's always the bad guy. Yep. And this is where we have to get very comfortable with one being the bad guy and focusing on the other person. So I think the first skill set that agents should develop is focusing on someone other than them. And I will just, the personality of the typical person that gets into real estate, is maybe a little bit of like, hey, yeah, I'm the shit, I'm awesome. And when we get into a deal, we have to think, okay, maybe let's just take that ego down a little bit. Believe me, because I was there too. I say this because that was me. And once you start focusing on the other person, you can have an honest and clear conversation and then allow them to make their own decisions. Because maybe they're like, yeah, we totally get the intensity and the severity of this because we do want to move in 30 days, but you know what? We're okay if it's going to take 90 days or longer. I mean, and you have to then be comfortable with their decision on that too. Because the other side of this, Garrett, is we've gotten really comfortable with home selling in a week or two. And, okay, sometimes it takes a month or two.
So I think as the guide, like let's transition this maybe back to like a hike through the Amazon jungle. As their guide that's leading them through this place, there's a lot of people right now that need to get to the other side of the jungle, but they're standing there going, I don't know what to do. I don't know. So I'm just going to stay here until, I don't know, maybe the trees part or it's easier to see what's going on or whatever's going to happen, but I'm going to wait for an easier time. I think there's a lot of people that are sitting on big databases of people right now that they're like, I have so much opportunity sitting here. Right now, those people are sitting outside the jungle wall going, I don't know if I want to make this journey through the jungle. there's a certain point, and this is when life changes start to happen, that people go, okay, I can't wait. I'm going to have to make this journey through the jungle. We're going to have to get to the other side. It's not about when the easy time comes, when the rain stop or whatnot. It's just, we got to go. So then you have your guide, realtor. It's now in your back pocket. Then the realtor is now sitting there and saying, okay, I know paths through this jungle. There's ways that are fast. There's ways that maybe take a little bit longer. Here's the pitfalls and here's the dangers of all these things. And we need to educate them on what all these different paths look like, of how we're going to get to this place and what the risk and the rewards are of these different paths that we're going to take. You're right, Matt. They get to make the decision of what they want to do, but we have to educate them on all the paths and all the ways. And this is where I'm watching a lot of people completely miss the boat. They're not educating them. And then the second thing is, you as the guide need to understand the paths that you look at and you go, oh, by the way, if you choose that path, I'm not coming with you because it's too dangerous. Like,
it's a great point.
That's on you.
That is a great point. It's like, oh, that's the way you want to go. Cool. Good luck. It's going to be a fun one.
Wait till you get to the waterfall. Like that's.
I think what's interesting about watching the market like this and thinking about, is the wind in your sails, or are you having to sail against the wind, is when we see a market like this, most of the moves that happen when transaction volume goes down are the moves that have to happen. You know, people who have job relocations, familial situations, or whatever it is, it's more of the moves that have to happen. Those moves will always happen. And I think when you look back and look at the higher volume markets, like, wait, some of those moves didn't, quote, have to happen. They wanted to happen. And I think this is where what you were saying, Garrett, is agents are kind of just like waiting for people to come up, because when they want to move, they're going to come talk to a realtor. But if they have to move, they're going to come talk to a realtor. It's the ones that are thinking about it, right, but are confused. That's where the value delivery has to happen. And that's the next skill set. So we have communication of like, okay, how do you talk to these people? And then is, what are you talking to them about, so that they can see the value, so that those conversations become even more constructive.
And this is where I've been saying for the past year, so much real estate is happening out of the light conversations. It's not the oh, this person came to me looking for real estate. It's, here I am sitting there. You know, I remember there's a gentleman I used to coach in Boston. He goes, oh yeah, we sit on front porches all the time. Like, that's kind of like a thing that we do in our marketplaces. And I was like, really? Like, you just like, he's like, yeah, it's kind of like a common like nicety that you do. I was like, not in California. You don't do that, but okay. But he's like, oh, I can just stop by and have tea with somebody, or just stop by, and I forget the exact, there's a little bit since we talked about this, so I might be blowing it out of proportion a little bit. But what he would say was like, I can just stop by and people want to sit on the front porch and talk. And he goes, a lot of times sitting on the front porch and talking, all of a sudden there's a little light conversation that comes up of like, man, like, it would be so nice if we had an extra bedroom. We've got, grandma's moving back in with us and this, and we got this changes going on. And all of a sudden, instead of them coming to him and saying, we need a house that has more space, he's now sitting there going, ooh, I hear that they need a house that has more space. And all of a sudden can lead into these moments of actually helping somebody make that journey through the jungle that they were going, you know what? I think we're cool. We can make this house work. I guess we'll just stay here for a little bit. That's where a lot of business sits right now. And that's where these skill sets come up, of being able to have these conversations and guide people and help them.
Well, think about it. All the things that you've done that like are, maybe you think, oh, this is a crazy idea, or you got motivated to do it, probably happened from a conversation. Like, yeah. I don't think people sat alone in their own independent garages one day and were like, you know what? I should start a business. I'm going to call my friend and see if he wants to start one too. It's like, no, you're sitting there hanging out, talking with each other. And all of a sudden you're like, we should do a business like that. Right. We should develop that product like that. And so you also, kind of like taking one step back here, it's like also just putting yourself in the opportunity to have those conversations by just showing up. Like, how about we show up for our people? And when transaction volume's low, you probably need to show up in more places like that. Your volume of communication needs to pick up, but the quality too, Garrett. I mean, I've been looking at a handful of people's marketing over the past couple of weeks, and I'm just like, oh gosh, like if we can just get away from, hey, here I am, I help people buy and sell real estate, call me if you want to buy or sell, like that's not going to work. in a market like this when people are only transacting if they have to, and the want tos are just kind of waiting around because they're not thinking it's time to go. So we need to have more education go out, more value go out, and in order to attract those conversations that can then help you, well, convert if the client chooses to.
So there's a situation that's shown back up recently that I've been watching, and I haven't seen it for many, many, many years. And it's a situation of two people that are getting a divorce or have actually gone through with the process. They've gotten the divorce. And they make the interesting decision of saying, hey, why don't you take the upstairs and I'll take the downstairs in this house so we don't have to sell right now because, hey, you know what? And maybe they're saying, we have such a great rate. Why would we want to get rid of the rate? Yeah. We'll just live in this house together. I haven't seen this since 2008, 2009.
Date the spouse and marry the rate.
It's the new slogan.
Or I guess they're not dating anymore.
They're not dating anymore. Share the space, date the rate. No, share the space. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So with that,
divorce the spouse,
what I think is
marry
interesting,
the rate, date the house.
This has come back around. I've heard about this numerous times now, and I'm like, I haven't heard about this for many years of people going through a divorce and saying, hey, you know what? Not the right time to sell right now. Let's share the house. We'll stay here. And what always happens, what happened back in 2008, 2009, is we watched people that the pain levels got high enough that who cares about the rate? Who cares about that we're going to have to write a check to get out of this house? I can't stand to be around this person anymore. And sharing this space has been absolutely miserable. And so I think what we're watching right now is these people that, though, by the way, those are people standing outside the jungle going, I'm afraid to go into it. I've already had enough turmoil in my life. I don't want to do that right now. If we show up in those people's lives and not just sit back and just being like, oh, okay, well, they've figured out their situation. They're just going to share this house. No, let's give them some direction. Let's give them some ideas. Let's sit down and talk this out and go, what could we do? How could we make this work? What are some options you have at your fingertips? Because otherwise, you're going to watch these people just sit until it gets so bad that now they're in a panic mode of making decisions, or it's really heated now. They're making the decisions. You don't want to wait till it's fight or flight mode. And that's what we typically watch if it gets pushed that far. It's fight or flight.
Yeah. And which Garrett brings up like kind of one last skill set for me in terms of sailing against the wind, which is becoming a super connector. Because you're going to have situations like this where you may not have the solution for them. You have the real estate solution for them. You have the guidance for them at that point, but maybe you don't have the skill set to actually bring the clarity. And this is where it's like, hey, why don't you talk to my friend over here? I got a financial advisor. I got a therapist. I got this person. You're connected to all these people that you can then connect to other people to help them resolve an issue in their life that allows them to then move to the next chapter in a positive way, and real estate being a good experience for that. Because there are financial reasons why people aren't buying and selling right now. Sure, we can't solve their financial reasons, but if we know somebody that can help them on that journey, why not make that connection? And then a year from now, all of a sudden, you're the person that not only has been delivering value from a real estate perspective, but delivered value from a relationship perspective in this great connection that has now transformed their life. And of course, they're going to call you to help them with the next phase. And that's a tough skill set to build, but again, you can do it. It's simple. You just have to connect and ask questions, build relationships, and listen.
I have, looking back at 2024 right now, going through business planning, I've probably already said this on an episode, but going through business planning, I'm watching really two things come out loud and clear of the people that are having success. One is that they had an amazing mindset through 2024. They did not get caught up in all the movement, all the office internal stuff that was going on. People freaking out, they were staying away from the water cooler. They were staying away from the politics side of stuff. And when I say the in-office stuff, it really was about a year ago that the whole, we have a lawsuit coming up, hit the books.
Yeah.
It was all the way through, what's happening? What does this mean? What's this going to be? Is this the end of real estate? Everybody was just spinning when nothing had changed yet. And then there was the settlement, and everybody's like, okay, what does this mean? It's all happening on this date. And everybody ran through all that. And the ones that I found that really protected their mindset and took care of themselves through that time. That was one element that made them be successful in 2024. The second group or the second piece that needed to happen there was being a connector, Matt, and being out and involved and building relationships, building connections with people, because the more we were out, people needed help with real estate, but they were frozen. They were stuck. They didn't know how to make that next transition. And they turned to their friends. They turned to the people that they could have those light conversations with and say, hey, Matt, like we're kind of thinking, but we're not sure if it's the right time. What would this look like if we were to approach it? Or, hey, what could our house sell for right now if we were to put it on the market? We're just kicking around some ideas. We're not going to sell though. Okay, got it. Like these simple conversations is what we needed to be having more of, and just opening up these doors around it. And 90% of those conversations aren't going to turn into that, but it's the 10% that do that allow us to say, okay, let me give some more value. Let me bring some more information to the table here. But you had to have a good mindset. You had to have your head out of the weeds, and you also had to be a connector. And the people that had those two things, oh my gosh, literally the best years. I am going to have Jess Babington on as a special guest here coming up, Matt. Jess Babington is just outside of Charlotte.
Yeah.
She's brilliant. And she's having her best year she's ever had. And she left a lot of business on the table. She goes, I was handing out deals to other agents in my office and having people help me with certain things because she had some family stuff going on. She's like, this was easily the best year. At the same point, she has some agents in her office that aren't having their best year. So it's not like that marketplace is just dishing it up to them.
And we have that every year. Go back to the best years, 2021, where almost everybody was having their quote best year. There were plenty of agents that were not having their best year.
No.
And I think it's great, Garrett. Inside our program, we have several people who are having their best year this year, 2024, and setting some really awesome goals for 2025. And, that's part of building the skill set is having a plan, right? Having a good plan that's going to help you develop the skill set, do the actions, make sure your calendar is right. And you mentioned business planning. If you guys are looking for a business plan, we have a 7-day free trial into the 11 Circle, which is our coaching program. And you can get the entire business plan through that trial because you have access to everything for that 7 days. So little cheat code, if you don't have a business plan, just sign up for the trial, go in there, watch the 3 workshops that we have, download all the things. You guys are going to put together a really, really awesome plan that's going to then guide you throughout the year and beyond. That's the cool thing of how we structured this year, Garrett, is we made it a GPS. It's not a one-use business plan where you use it, throw it out, and go build a new one. It's, hey, this is your GPS. And so a lot of this intense work that some people have said, hey, this is hard this year. I'm like, yeah, it's hard. We're asking some hard questions. But once you solve some of those questions, you don't have to ask them again next year with that level of specificity because your mission statement's created. You know what your vision is. Your 25-year vision is probably going to be hopefully the same next year as it is this year. Maybe certain things, little things will change, but there's going to be some big elements that are the same. So guys, go to LifeAtTenTenths.com and then go down to get started and click on the 11 Circle, get that 7-day free trial so that you can build an incredible plan. We are here to serve you guys. If anything, you'll get our goal breakdown worksheet as part of what we did on session 3, right? And that worksheet alone is super beneficial. So
now, Matt, I'm going to throw a little extra element on here for everybody who's still listening, and I appreciate you all hanging out here with us. If you are a office manager or an owner of a company and you're listening to this, or if you're somebody that is in an office where it's like my office would really benefit from this, we actually have a space that you can go on our website, which is LifeAtTenTenths at the very top that says refer a friend. And if you want to go in there and pick up your affiliate link, you can give that affiliate link to every person you know, or you can give it to your managing broker and say, hey, this is a 14-day free trial. If anybody has that affiliate link from one of their trusted people and they want to use it, they will get a 14-day free trial to get their business plan all done and to be able to also get a sense of what we got going on in here and feel really comfortable with it. Because we'd love for you to not only come and hang out and get the business plan, but we are building an amazing group of players, an amazing group of people that are showing up. John Montgomery, which we just did his podcast, he mentioned is that we have this group of fun outliers that are starting to grow, that are looking at this from a different angle, super excited, super engaged, and that's what I envision this growing into be. So if it feels like your people, if it feels like the right spot, that's a way to have a 14-day free trial. And if you're a managing broker or anybody, get your affiliate link, hand that out, because you can get all your agents in your office at least to come and have a taste of what this is.
Yeah, no doubt. And I will say this too, guys, hop on our email list at the very bottom of that landing page that we have, our website. You can drop in your email, get on our email list if you're not ready for the other stuff, because that's where we make announcements that are more time relevant. Because as we're recording this, we're getting pretty far ahead on our recordings.
Yep.
So if we're making time sensitive announcements that have to do with events and things like that, it's going to come through email. You're probably not going to hear it here first, but you're going to get all the great stuff here, right here on the podcast, right here on YouTube. So if you are watching and you haven't yet subscribe, because we love you guys. And while the podcast is something that Garrett and I started years ago for fun, we keep doing it really for that matter. And so we hope that you guys enjoy it. And the best thing that you can do for us to support us is share the show, subscribe it, send it around to your friends and say, hey, I got some great value out of this. I think you'll enjoy it too. And shoot us a message. Just let us know you're listening. It always warms my heart, Garrett, when I get a message like, hey man, I've been listening to you for years. Love it. Keep it up. I'm like, sweet. Those make me feel good. And it's just so much fun to be able to connect with listeners and chat with you guys for a little bit. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, Garrett. Great topic today. It
was a vision. It was a vision. It was given to me.
Vision.
Yes.
So we're going to tack and jibe into 2025.
Yes. Dude, rhymes. There's a bumper sticker for you, Matt.
There it is. I love it. Not that I don't have enough bumper stickers all over me today. All right, guys. Love you all. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing day.